Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Just another day in paradise over here. How about you?
Boiling. Can't be asked with anything. I'm trying not to swear. Uh, Little rule for YouTube: you're not really meant to swear in the first 30 seconds. I've messed that up because that is technically a swear word. But we'll move on. It's hot over here, blasting if you will. But we move on. I was going to say what a week it's been, but it's only Tuesday. My God. May God have mercy on us all. But when it comes to gaming, there's been a lot of cool gaming news. Like the for people joining in and listening later, I like to call this a mullet style podcast. We have the short topics up front and the long topics at back. And we have like a ridiculous amount of short topics today, so we'll see what we'll work through. But it's going to be an interesting show. Now, it's been a long week. Logan, what have you been playing?
Really, I've been playing a monster train for the most part. Just really grinding it out and trying to build up all the decks and get the best characters and builds possible. And I got the expansion for it, which adds like these basically like Leviathan worm looking unit things and their bugs and all kinds of like if you like spawning tons of minion units and stuff, it's like a perfect build for you. So I've just been mainly dabbling in that game. I picked up Final Fantasy 16, so I've got it
Nice.
now. I'm ready to go. And yeah, so that's what I've been gaming lately. How about you?
I've been gaming all sorts. I mean, Final Fantasy 16. I'll get this out of the way because I seem to have glazed the game every single week since it came out. I'm loving the game. Like it's fantastic. The cool thing about that game is that they make summons a spectacle. So Final Fantasy 10 is one of my favorite games of all time. And when you call in a summon in that game, it essentially acts as a different character with a different set of moves, which I used to really like, and I still do. Uh, in this game, it uses summons as like these special events, so you don't really have the opportunity to use them during random, uh, battles with like random enemies. It wouldn't even make sense because the summons they call icons in this. They're literally the size of skyscrapers. So it wouldn't make sense to call in a skyscraper-sized monster to fight this thing that's the size of a bottle of wine. um, but yeah, I'm loving the game. I think I'm just over 50% through the game, and a few people have said like I'm praising the game too much. Maybe I am, but there's not really many things I can say bad about it. And for people that are interested and wondering why I've been talking this game up so much, it's currently 30% off on Xbox Live. That's for the regular edition, and I believe the complete edition is also 30% off. And the expansions are meant to be really good in that. I've also been playing a game called Ruffy and the Riverside, which I got a review code for. And if
That
people
sounds
yeah, it's basically a N64 style platformer that also has 2D characters. So it's basically one half Mario 64 and the other half is basically Paper Mario. And you do
that sounds
quests.
cool.
Yeah, you do quests, you find collectibles, and the interesting thing about this game, and there's footage on screen for people watching at home, uh, this has a weird game mechanic in it, which I really like. So there's puzzles in the game that you have to solve by changing the texture on certain items. So let's say you find a waterfall, you can hover over the uh, right bumper and basically copy that texture. And let's say you need to get somewhere, get over some lava, you'll basically aim at the ground and make a river. So you copy and paste textures to solve puzzles. And I've never really seen this done before. I think it's such a cool game, and if anything, it actually reminds me a lot of Banjo Kazooie. So if there's Banjo fans out there, maybe you want to try this. It was developed by Phyphon Games. Sorry, published by Phyphon Games and developed by Socrates Laboratories UG. That's a mouthful. But yeah, it came out about a month ago, and it's actually really fun. So if people like N64 style platformers, I have to say this is a must buy. It's so much fun. There's boss battles, there's quests, literally the main mechanic in the game, copying and pasting textures. You actually have to come up with some original ideas to solve them, which I really liked. It actually makes you think differently and outside of the box. And I feel like we don't get too many 3D platformers that make you think. This one did. So yeah, if people want to check it out, highly recommend it. It's called Ruffy and the Riverside. Sorry, Riverside. That's a mouthful. But yeah, I've also been playing Warzone, which I'm not going to talk about because that's boring as hell for a lot of people that don't really play multiplayer. But yeah, so Ruffy and the Riverside, and I've been playing, Final Fantasy 16. By the way, I understand how people online might think I've been talking about that game too much. The truth is, and if you look at this in a vacuum, Final Fantasy 16 is the first massive AAA big budget JRPG on Xbox in years. So while you did have things like, Metaphor Fantasio, this is a big action-based game with lots of big set pieces, and I won't spoil it for you, Logan, but there's things that's going to happen in this game that's going to make your jaw hit the floor and think, why don't we see this in more AAA games? Because it's a visual treat, and I think we need more of that in gaming. Before we continue with the rest of the show, we have the first super chat of the day by Pyro Matt. Thank you very much. He says, for the £2. He says, play Cassette Beasts, best Montamer I've played. Yeah, I need to get to that. I mean, I think there's 4 or 5 monster hunting and collecting games on Xbox. Cassette Beasts looks like it's one of the best. I've actually been wanting more Pokemon style games on Xbox. Basically just copy Pokemon. Why not? You have Pal World on there, but you have to change half the bloody game mechanics because Nintendo can't stop suing people for 5 minutes. But I will check that out. It does look very good. And I think it's only a gigabyte or maybe 2 gigabytes. And it's in Game Pass, I think. And we also got to get Nexomon 3 news, I believe, in the next month or so. At least that's what I saw online recently. And that's going to be a big 3D, Pokemon-style game. So quite a big of a jump from, Nexomon 1 and 2 to 3. But I'm all here for it. But yeah, thank you for the £2 Pyro. I keep talking about Final Fantasy 16. But Logan, can you think of what was the last major big budget AAA JRPG on Xbox that was action based and it was a spectacle? It had to have been Final Fantasy 15, right?
Yeah, because Expedition 33 is technically independent and double A, even though they aced everything on it. And it's a westernized version of a JRPG. So the last traditional JRPG that would have been a major action set would have probably been about 15, or if I don't know, it depends on how you want to classify some other games. Some people classify Elden Ring as, one thing or another. Yeah. I personally think it's kind of an action-y game, but it also has some JRP stuff and stylings to it, to where I can understand the logic behind classifying it as that. But, overall, I'd say it's definitely the first one traditional in a long time.
Yeah. I keep talking about for a reason, so if people are interested, again, it's on sale. It's going to be a while till we get another big, new Final Fantasy game outside of the remake. And, it got me thinking last night, when exactly are we going to see Final Fantasy VII Remake? Because developers can be a bit loose when they talk about seasonal releases. So winter, depends on where you live, really, but winter where I live starts in December. So is Final Fantasy VII Remake realistically going to, release in December? It might. It might be January. We don't know. But developers sometimes just list seasons as end of the year. So winter might be, November onwards. We'll have to wait and see. But I think one of the big reasons why I've been talking about this game so much is that, and for a lot of people listening and a lot of people that have just been wanting these games to come over, I was mainly looking forward to 7 Remake, right? 16 was this game I was
Mhm.
interested in because I never really watched the trailers. I saw the main character, thought he was cool, and I was like, right, I want this to come to Xbox so I can experience it without knowing anything. But 7 Remake, like, that is like a remake from a game from my childhood, right? So, like, that has been the most wanted game on Xbox for years, and I'm playing 16, and I'm thinking, like, I I cannot actually see how the remake of 7 can be better than 16. Like, I can't picture it at all. And if it is, oh my god, I'm in for a treat then. Because like when I'm done with this game, I think I might end up giving. It's a bit too early, but it could be a 10 out of 10 game for me. And I've only ever gave 6 games a 10 out of 10. So we'll have to wait and see. But either way, hell of a game. I've also been playing Doom Eternal. Sorry, Doom the Dark Ages. My god. Turns out I'm about halfway through the game. I've been taking my time with it. Excellent first-person shooting mechanics, and I really can't get over how good the shield mechanic is. You know, who really thought, you know what would work in a Doom game? A shield. Like, let's have a Captain America style shield that you can throw, it'll come back to you, but let's put a chainsaw on it. And let's put a parrying system in a Doom game. And I hate parrying in video games. But in Doom, absolutely nailed it. Flawless. The dragon levels are so much fun. Honestly, if they decide to release a game at some point that's just dragon levels, I'd be happy. Amazing fun with that game. Did you finish that, by the way, Logan?
Actually, I haven't gotten to it yet. It's on my list, but I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, it's a good game, and that's basically what I've been playing. Actually, I'll mention the Warzone thing quickly. So they've put this massive building in the middle of the Warzone map. For people that don't know, I'd be shocked if no one doesn't, or shall I say. 150 people drop into this map, fight to survive, last one wins, whatever. But, out of this, like, huge map, they decided to plonk this absolutely massive, like, skyscraper in the middle of the map and put these, like, secret objectives in. So if you collect these pool balls that are hidden basically throughout this skyscraper and you put them on the wall where the pool table is, you can unlock a room that has supplies in, such as self-revive kits, UAVs, and also these things called specialist perks. And if you get one of these, you've essentially won the game because you have every single perk activated at the exact same time. And you also have a portable buy station. And ever since they put this skyscraper in the map, people just fly down and try and get into the skyscraper to find these pool balls. So it's like a bloodbath, right? So you have 150 people jumping into this map. It's a really big map, but realistically, you have about 80 people trying to get into this skyscraper, and it is mayhem, absolute mayhem.
So it's the cornucopia and Hunger Games.
Basically, yeah, and it's incredible. And I say this as someone that I can't stand multiplayer anymore. I really can't. I'm a single player guy, but Warzone, my god, it's so addictive, and especially since they put this new pool ball mechanic in with the tower. I highly recommend people play it. There's a bunch of different kinds of Warzone modes now, but yeah, Warzone, really fun. You know what? Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show, which are the topics, because literally we have, I think, around 17 topics. We'll get some of the bad stuff out the way quick, and this was actually a big piece of news that doesn't really affect me much, but I know it affects Logan much, is that earlier last week, Microsoft started removing the ability to buy and rent movies and TV shows from the Xbox Live Store. And this kind of caused a big stir because, depends on who you are. You might have a massive library. Maybe that's where you regularly rent or buy movies. But for me personally, I literally have 3 movies in the store, from the store, and one of which I was given for free because I bought Hogwarts Legacy. I got a free copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 4K. By the way, best way to watch that film in 4K. And, they removed the feature to buy movies and TV shows. And for me, I didn't really bat an eye because I use my Xbox for, using apps for video and my Blu-ray movies, but it's mainly a gaming device. But that's me. I know, Logan, you do have movies that you own on the Xbox Store and use that to buy movies, but consider it doesn't really affect me much. I'll pass the mic to you in a second, but for me, the way I see it is, I'm just guessing, and Sony did the same thing about 5 years ago. My theory is that these companies removed the ability to buy these games because the revenue didn't didn't cover the cost of the licenses. Basically, they weren't making enough revenue to cover the licenses to get these movies on their store. Because whenever I did go on the store, and it's obviously a regional thing, the selection of movies wasn't that great, right? In the UK at least. Not all new releases were there. Some films were available for rent. Not all of them were. Not all new movies had 4K versions. But I know it's different over the pond. Logan, what's your take? Because you do actually use the store.
Yeah, I was pretty annoyed, not gonna lie, because I've built a rather substantial digital library. Like, mine was different though, because like you have to check sometimes the films that they put in the store, because like some of them are only available on the Microsoft, film and TV app, and then some are, eligible to go to Movies Anywhere or Fandango or Apple or whatnot. And so I had some stuff that was only for the Microsoft thing, and then that's literally all only place I can watch it. But for the most part, a bunch of the stuff I had bought from there over the years was stuff that would work with my Movies Anywhere or Fandango, because I know Movies Anywhere is only a US thing, which sucks for y'all because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's like basically like Disney and most of the major publishers like agreed to, like let, digital codes that come with certain editions of Blu-rays or steelbooks or whatever grant you a digital code for the film. And then you put it in that app and then you can access it later and watch it. Or you can buy it from their website or whatever. And like Movies Anywhere in the US at least would let me sync my Apple, my Microsoft, and my Fandango all together through the Movies Anywhere. Like, not all the apps worked with each other, but at least Movies Anywhere would let me get anything that was Movies Anywhere eligible from those other libraries and put them on my Movies Anywhere app. And then I had Fandango for the films who don't want to play nice with Movies Anywhere and want to only be on Fandango or other avenues. Used to be called Voodoo. Then they got bought by Fandango, the ticket company, basically. And it, a long story short, I had a bunch of digital stuff. So I found it annoying, not mainly because the app itself is no longer getting content, but the storefront, because I was able to use Microsoft Rewards points to, like, if I want to pick up a movie, it's like, oh hey, Sinners is on sale. I could, knock off a few bucks off that and just pick it up for pretty cheap. And I've got a 4K, and boop, it pops into my Movies Anywhere app as well. But that's no longer a thing. It's not an end of the world. It was just another, like, come on, guys, really? Like, after some other recent stuff, it was just another rake moment kind of thing. But again, not the biggest deal, not the end of the world. It was just annoying at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think like times are changing, and I've talked about the state of physical media in the UK. It's an absolute joke, um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think in the UK at least we don't have any of that, like Fandango or that stuff where you buy a movie here and you can view it elsewhere. We don't really have anything like that here, as far as I know. These services want to bleed you dry in the UK. I think the only cool service we have in the UK like that is that on Sky, which is a satellite TV service. If you buy a movie digitally, they'll send you the Blu-ray to your house.
Oh,
Uh,
that's cool.
yeah, and they did it for a while. I don't know if they still do it, but like, man, it's such a shame all this stuff is happening. But yeah, I think that if people uh just like they have to be vocal about this. Like how many people were really using the store? Like for me, like I'm on my Xbox is my entertainment device, right? It's where I listen to my music, I watch my movies on it. Like literally, my Xbox is on all the time, right? But I use the Apple Store for digital movies. I for some reason I really like the way the Apple Store works. Um,
It's good.
yeah, it's a good store, and honestly, I think the prices were better on Apple sometimes. I think and obviously these prices are actually set by the movie holder, but yeah, it's a shame it's happened. Sony did remove the ability on their console like 5 years ago, but now there's a separate movie app. But they have the whole movie publishing business as well. And as far as I know, you can only watch Sony movies on that app. Either way, it's a bit disappointing, but you've got to wonder like how much did it actually cost them, because Microsoft, they are a services and cloud based company now, right? Have been for a long time, really. And for them to say no to revenue, that they're not producing movies, right? They were actually producing TV shows a little over a decade ago, but that all that stuff went under the I was gonna say under the toilet, but in the toilet, but you know what I mean. But yeah, Microsoft, no more movies. No. I will say this though, there's one positive out of this for me, and honestly, it used to grind my gears. So every time you go to the search bar on an Xbox and I type something in, I'd always get recommended movies with a similar name. That used to annoy the hell out.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah. So like, if you're looking for like a Far Cry like video game, do you know there's a Far Cry movie that came out in like 2011 or something like that? It's like
Oh, I bet
oh,
that was awful.
oh terrible. It's absolutely awful. And do you know there's a Dead Rising movie? It's
I mean,
awful.
isn't Dead Rising like basically Dawn of the Dead, but not Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah. So you have you have Dead Rising, which is basically based on Dawn of the Dead, but then you have this movie that's based on the game that's based on Dawn of the Dead, and it was a terrible movie, absolutely terrible. But like stuff like that would show up, and it was really bad for upcoming games, because some games get announced, which we'll talk about in a bit, um, and on the trailer they'll say, "Hey, wishlist this game now." So you go to the store, it's not on there yet, but if you search for it, it would be. However, given that there's movies like Clive Barker's Jericho and all the Clive Barker movies would be in there as well, so a little bit annoying. But hey, I mean, hopefully, people can migrate all that stuff to Apple or Amazon or whatever. We'll get this out of the way. So a bunch of people tagged me. The Fallout TV show production team is now working on Mass Effect. Now, people might know that I kind of like Mass Effect. It kind of I'm obsessed with that franchise or that trilogy, and that is a good thing, right? We've seen in the past when video game adaptations they can be messed up. The one I like to go to the most is Mortal Kombat Armageddon. My God, that is possibly one of the worst films of all time. And Mass Effect as a franchise scares the living hell out of me. Right, I'm terrified of the Mass Effect franchise. Right, upcoming video games, movies, TV shows scares me to hell, because if they get anything wrong, anything slightly wrong, I'm gonna be heartbroken beyond belief. Anyway, having a competent team that actually care about Mass Effect, that's the least I want. Or should I say that's the most I want. I'm all over the place today. It's been a long day. The good thing is they have a good team working on it. Now, I haven't actually seen the Halo TV show, so I can't really comment on it, but people have said that's not really what you want from a Halo show. So I can't really speak on that. Logan, what's your take? Because, everyone liked Fallout, and it's the same team.
Yeah, I think it's always a very good sign when you see a production crew or directing crew or whatnot, people managing a show and the crafting of it, to be from successful series. Like that just there's a reason why they say brought to you by the creators of or the director of or starring actor in, like they don't say this film stars Razzie Award winner. Da, da, da. They don't do that for a
Yeah.
reason because people go, man, this film's gonna suck. So they yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, maybe this is weird energy, but we theoretically could live in a timeline where Mass Effect the show is more stable than Mass Effect the game, honestly.
Oh
The
God.
future of it as the franchise.
Yeah. Oh, that scares the living hell out of me. Oh God. I
I
mean,
mean, you get your Mass Effect, man.
yeah. Oh God. I mean, the bonuses is that the production notes they had the N7 logo there. So, by the way, I've noticed there's a significant part of the Mass Effect fan base, at least on Twitter, they do not want this TV show to be about Shepard. And to me,
Are these the Mass Effect 5 truthers?
yeah,
Or
yeah. Oh God, if I see Mass Effect 5 one more time, um, that we still need a fourth one, damn it. But like honestly, like look, if you're gonna make an adaptation of an IP, a video game, don't you kind of like to get people's attention, you kind of have to make it about the thing people know about, right? So like, if a future Halo movie comes out, are they gonna make it about some side character you've never heard of? Are they gonna make it about the origin of the Covenant? Um, no, they're not. Like, they're going to make it about Master Chief. Is the next Mario movie just going to be about Toadstool? No, it's going to be about bloody Mario, right? I get it, right? I think it's scary to have a big budget Mass Effect TV show because there's so many different things that can get wrong. However, it kind of has to be about Shepard because the number one thing I see brought up by people online is that shouldn't this TV show be about the First Contact Wars? Right. As someone that knows about Mass Effect, the First Contact War idea is brilliant. However, are you really think that the normie that knows absolutely nothing about Mass Effect, they're going to tune into a TV show that's a spin-off of a video game that's a prequel about a First Contact War set before the first game Mass Effect? No, nobody's going to tune into that, right? They have to make a TV show, a movie with the star that people know about because these TV shows, these movies, they're catering to the fans of the franchise and they're making a movie for a mass audience that don't even care about the games, right? I think that like what that Mario movie made over $1 billion or close to it. It's because one, they made a fun movie. It's easy to understand. I mean, it's a Mario plot, so they're not gonna confuse people. But they got the attention of fans and newcomers, and they'll do the same with the Zelda movie, I'm sure, because that's Universal. Universal make really good movies, right? They'll knock that out of the park. But like with Mass Effect, like they have to make it about Shepard. Either make it about Shepard or not at all. Honestly, I'd be happy either way. Now, if they're going with Shepard, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Henry Cavill. I will not go any other way. It has to be Henry Cavill. Otherwise, we revolt. The war starts at dawn.
what if they do FemShep out of curiosity?
I mean, look, Shepard to me is male Shepard. I like whenever I post footage, like I pick default male Shepard. Like
Hmm.
that's what Shepard looks like to me. So going with female Shepard, like it wouldn't bother us really. I just prefer to go the male route because that's just my Shepard. Like hell, I've played the first Mass Effect game 11 times and I've made the same bloody choices every single playthrough. Right? I've seen the same thing happen over and over again because that's my playthrough and that's male Shepard. And honestly, I prefer the voice. I mean, hell, Henry Cavill has been my fan cast for Shepard since 2008, right? Because I was a huge fan of the Tudors back in the day, and he literally looks like Shepard in that show. Other than wearing, Victorian era or before that, the ye old English like frocks, like the floofy stuff they used to wear back then. But hey, Mass Effect TV show, it's coming. I bet that's going to be an expensive show. Because as someone that watched Andor a couple of weeks ago, like that show's. Let's gush about Andor season 2 for a moment. My God, that's perfect. Like the production value of Andor season 2. Can we get that in Mass Effect, please? 1, you have physical sets. 2, the CGI is flawless. Flawless. And it's some of the best Star Wars ever, in my opinion. Logan, did you watch Andor season 2?
I haven't yet,
My
but
God.
I know it's incredible, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, way better than season 1, and season 1 was good. But like, if we're going to get that kind of production value in a Mass Effect show, okay, right? But, I'm just terrified because I know they'll mess up something.
The Expanse.
Yeah, oh, that's a good point. The Expanse is, like, borderline perfect. So, right, if we have Expanse but in Mass Effect, I'll be happy. But yeah, just want to talk about this quickly because I'm like it's a franchise I love, and I'm going to talk about it all the time and annoy the living hell out of people. But it annoys me because I know for a fact deep down I'm never going to get more of what I want. I'm just going to have to deal with shovelware. Honestly, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. I think Mass Effect would be in a better state at EA if they never got the Star Wars license 10 years ago. I think that...
They'd both be better off, probably.
Yeah. Like, I honestly think that EA put Mass Effect on the back burner rather than bringing that franchise up. We could have had spin-offs. We could have... there was originally a first-person shooter Battlefield-style game set in the Mass Effect universe. I've seen it in action. It got cancelled. And then they announced Star Wars Battlefront, which... it launched with no campaign, bare-bone game, if anything. Got another super chat for £2 by Pyro Mad. Thank you very much. He says, "Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?" Yep. I will play Mass Effect till the day I die, every year, hopefully, and I'll make the same choices every single time, because that's my playthrough. And by the way, every time I try and fire it up, thinking I'm going to go Renegade, I do the same thing every time. Every time.
I feel bad. Like, every time I try it, I go, man, my character is so awful, and then I go back and fix it. I just can't be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, these are characters made up of polygons on a screen, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I just hurt them, right? It doesn't make any sense. I know they aren't real people, but I just can't do it. One day, but we'll see. But thank you for the £2. Maybe one day. I mean, by the way, I may have mentioned this on the channel before. My next playthrough of Mass Effect, I fully intend on playing the whole trilogy on this channel. So if people want to see that, it'll be a thing, hopefully in the next few months. Because I've been looking at the release window for a lot of these games, and a lot of RPGs are kind of being moved around, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, Mass Effect as a franchise, I hope we get more of the original trilogy, just that magic once again. Anyway, I've been rambling on about Mass Effect for like 10 minutes. Let's get into the other topics. So a game that was announced 5 years ago finally got a new trailer, and that's called Exomecha. Now this game, I think the trailer was actually shown off alongside Xbox Summer Showcase games in 2020. I'll have to double check. But basically, it's a first-person shooter with third-person mech combat, and it basically looks like Crysis had a baby with Transformers.
Isn't it like Zoids looking?
Yeah.
Like, you remember that show?
Yeah, a little bit. And it looks pretty cool, not going to lie. But, when a game just falls off the map for 5 years, you kind of expect it to be cancelled. Well, anyway, they came out with a new trailer last week. It looks better than it did before. It's coming out, I'll have to double check. I think they said the first quarter of 2026. They've got a Kickstarter open. I think they just want additional funding because this game is being made by one person. So the fact that this one person's making this really cool looking multiplayer game looks really cool. I know the developer wants someone that has over 100,000 subscribers to talk about the game. Little bit of free advice to this developer. you want to branch out to as many people as possible and not limit yourself. I'm not the biggest channel. I'm still growing, but like you want small channels, you want medium channels and big channels to talk about this game, right? Don't just limit yourself to the Jack Frags who makes great content and all that stuff, but you're limiting yourself to a small player base of people rather than like the wide mainstream. Anyway, bit of a rant. The game looks great. I hope the developer has success with it, but yeah, it's called Exomecha, made by one dude. Now, Logan, I know you're probably not going to play that game because it's multiplayer, right?
I might give it a shot. Like I said, I like the old Zoids and Transformers and like those old Cartoon Network animes back in the day. So I'll probably give it a chance, but no promises.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks cool if people want to check it out. Oh, we'll talk about this next because this news kind of broke about an hour before the show started. So a game came out last month, or might have been back in May, sorry, called Blades of Fire. And the developers came out literally an hour ago saying the game underperformed. This is a AA single-player action-adventure game, and it had next to no marketing. That by the way, that's a big problem for these AA games. There's no money for marketing. It's been an issue for a long time. Yeah, you have your occasional RoboCop game where they can put out trailers and have these little events, but most AA games don't have that luxury. And a lot of places like IGN and GameStop and stuff, or GameSpot, they'll cover indie games, they'll cover AAA games, but AA just doesn't get the coverage. And I think that's such a shame. But yeah, the game underperformed. They're going to have to restructure the studio, and they've had issues. Now, there is a demo available on Xbox right now, if people want to play it. It's a really cool game. And rather than just finding weapons out in the wild, the cool mechanic in that game is that you literally forge the shape of your weapon by... It's hard to explain, but you move this bar up and down this like drawing of a sword, and you kind of smith out this sword to this shape. It's hard to explain. It's cool in action, but I think it's just a shame that these AA games just don't get the the recognition they deserve. Logan, I know you haven't really talked about this game much, but what's your take? Because AA games, they do have this weird time of actually getting people knowing that they exist.
Yeah, I always feel bad for AA games because, some of the best games I've been playing lately have frankly been the AA games that,
Yeah.
Somehow thread that needle from they're not small, super small like an indie game, but they're not like the gargantuan budget mass production of a AAA, but it kind of takes the best of both that they can manage. And you obviously go into it understanding that there'll probably be some tech issues. There'll probably be some, mechanics here and there that are a little rough, but it's like you like the idea or like the general thing they're going for. And so this one was one of those, and it was interesting. It actually got really
Yeah.
good like user feedback
Yeah.
and critical scoring and everything. So it obviously I'm not saying it's Alan Wake 2, but I'm just saying kind of like where you have something that's like, wow, people are really enjoying this and stuff, but for whatever reason it just doesn't hit the sales marks people would want, or just nobody hears about it. And it's just a bummer.
Yeah. Oh, I've just found out something interesting about this game. Uh, it didn't get a Steam release.
Well, there you go. That is like a death sentence for a modern game.
Yeah.
Like if you're a PC game and you're not on Steam, it's like what are you even doing? Unless you got a colossal bag drop from Epic, and even then, I'm not sure that would be worth that.
Yeah. Uh, this
Ask
is,
Alan Wake.
yeah. Oh, my God. Do you know I still get asked if that's on Steam yet by people? Right? It's like, no, that's
That was such a bad decision,
yeah.
but whatever.
Like maybe the bag these companies get from Epic is worth it in the short term, but in the long term, like if you want the PC audience, you've got to go with Steam. Hopefully, a lot of these developers can get out of it, because like Blades of Fire, I think a lot of people on Steam would like that game. because it's a single player action adventure game. It's got a Souls like element to it. It's got difficulty options, which I think is cool for a Souls like this. It has interesting gaming mechanics. The story's good. The voice acting's good. The visuals are good. Like as a double A game, it's probably one of the best of the year from what I've played. But yeah, bit of a shame. One of the reasons why I like to cover double A games on Twitter and on my channel, it's because they get no coverage. And I think it's such a shame. Like, when I talked about RoboCop Rogue City when that came out like 2.5 years ago, right? I had a bunch of replies by people saying they had no idea the game existed. Because that game, it had some little events and stuff. And thankfully, with the new game, they made more money off the original. But these double A games, there's so many cool games, and there's some cool games coming out in the next several months that will blow people's mind holes, and like how good these double A games look. And like hell, what's all the talk this year been about so far? Expedition 33, it's a double A game, shiny double A game. People love it. The double A space needs to be looked at more. And honestly, if you look at the Jeff Keighley Game Awards, right? Indie games will win these Game of the Year, nominations. AAA games will, but AA games, just nobody pays attention to them. And I think that's a travesty.
I think that changes this year. Just a
Oh,
hunk.
yeah. I mean, I know there's been a lot of Donkey Kong talk. I haven't played it. It looks really cool. But
Nintendo will get some noms. They always do.
Yeah. But Expedition 33 are going to clear house, right? Best soundtrack, best art design, best art direction, best narrative, like best voice acting. I really can't see that not winning every award it's nominated for. But yeah, AA people, please pay attention to them, because it's not all about like the AAA and spectacle and stuff. Like these AA games, some of them really bloody excel. Like in this podcast today, a lot of the gameplay you're going to see is AA games, right? For people that keep saying this Starfighter Combat, that's from a game that came out 3 years ago called Everspace 2. And it's a AA.
So
yeah, so good. It's a AA RPG where you play as a starfighter pilot, right? It launched in Game Pass like 3 years ago. It's not in Game Pass anymore. But it's such a cool game, and we need more games like this. But yeah, AA, people praise them. Excellent. You know what? Let's get the smaller, kind of negative stories out the way, but we kind of need to talk about them. So, there's a horror game coming out later this year I was originally meant to, called Directive 8020. It's set in the dark... What's it called? The Dark Pictures universe?
The Dark Picture Anthology.
Yeah, Dark Picture Anthology. Yeah, it's set in this universe, but set hundreds of years in the future. Well, thousands, technically. It looks really cool. It was originally meant to come out in October, but considering a lot of developers are, some of them are being laid off from Supermassive Games, and they're having to push back the game to the first half of 2026. It's a shame, but also looking at the release calendar for this year, it might actually be very beneficial for them, because October is stacked. But yeah, the game looked really cool. I was wanting to play it. It's a shame. Logan, I know you were looking forward to this, right?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for these like horror Telltale styled games. Like I know like we're well past the Telltale formula by now, but
Yep.
like that you kind of, the origin of this kind of game. And I love the collection of the games they've made and the different experiences, like even the ones outside the Dark Pictures, like the Quarry or Until Dawn. And then, you've got House of Ashes, you've got Man of Medan, you've got Little Hope, and then I'm trying to remember. Oh, The Devil Inside or whatever, which was about a infamous serial killer guy. And yeah, so I was really looking forward to a sci-fi take on it, kind of like a Dead Spacey, but this kind of game. And it's a bummer it got delayed, but a delay is better than canceled. So, and I had no idea it was a footnote in the thing, but I didn't know they were actually the ones doing Little Nightmares 3. Like
Oh, yeah.
I
Yep.
knew it was Bandai Namco, but I didn't know Supermassive was actually on that. So, that was interesting. Losing 36 devs definitely sucks and it hurts. I wish them the best. And yeah, on one hand, it's like October, September is that sweet spot for a horror game,
Yeah.
especially like for release. But at the same time, if there are some other juggernaut releases in that cadence and your game isn't 100% up to task at that moment, it could be problematic. So, uh, in the end, I think it'll benefit.
Yeah. I have to answer this quickly because I just saw it in chat. Uh, Pyro, Space Engineers is on Xbox. I had next to no marketing, by the way. They ported that thing to Xbox, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. Nobody talked about it because they didn't market the thing. But yeah, that's on Xbox. I would absolutely love more space games and just sci-fi games in general. I mean, hell, like it's in my Twitter profile, sci-fi nerd, right? I love this stuff. I don't care if it's horror. I want action adventure. I'll take some Telltale type stuff. Like, set this thing in space, I'll buy it. Like hell, my most anticipated game right now, it's the Expanse game, right? Which I didn't see coming. I didn't see the fact that we were going to get a
Osiris, right?
Cyrus Reborn. Like I didn't think we would get a AAA modern third-person shooter Expanse RPG. Like, if someone told me this a year ago, I would call them a crazy person because that seems so unlikely. What do you mean we're going to get one of these before a Star Trek game? So unlikely, and here it is, and I'm so hyped. My God, I'm actually gaslighting myself into being more hyped for this game. But yeah, Directive 8020, it's been pushed back to next year. Bit of a shame. And we actually got another delay just before the show went live. Not a very long delay, and that is Terminator 2D No Fate. It was originally meant to come out in September. And this is also made by the developers of RoboCop Rogue City. They clearly like their 80s IP. And it looks absolutely amazing. It kind of has this like Contra look to it, but it's the Terminator 2 movie. But anyway, it's been pushed back to October. So, bit of a shame, but it's only a month. Logan, I'm guessing you're going to be all over that game.
Oh yeah, 100%. Terminator mixed with Contra. Yeah, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, that looks good. But yeah, 1 month delay. You can't really be upset about that. Now, we got a good game announcement today, and it's something I want to talk about. So Saber Interactive, they have this amazing ability to just make like multiple games at the same time. At the minute, they are currently making Space Marine 3, Space Marine 2 content. They are making Two Rock Origins. They are making Toxic Commando, and they are publishing Toxic Commando, but they're also making the Jurassic Park game. And they announced today Clive Barker's Clive Barker's Hellraiser Rising Revival. I'm all over the place today, but we're getting a Hellraiser game, modern AAA Hellraiser game, and it's coming to Xbox. We didn't get a release window, however, you can pre-order it now, and there's a collector's edition being announced. However, they kind of said that it's going to be coming sooner rather than later. So I think we're actually going to see this Hellraiser game come out. I'm putting it out there, second week of October. Short trailer, a lot of screenshots, but having a collector's edition along with your announcement, to me, it seems like it's not that far off. And if you're going to release a Hellraiser game, put that thing out near Halloween. It looks so good. Logan, I know you're going to be all over this because it's Hellraiser and it looks good.
Oh yeah, this game looks nuts and dark and grimy and twisted and just like expect exactly what you'd expect from a Clive Barker game. And like, you know, you can't fault Sabretooth for anything on like their reverence for the lore and the worlds and the characters and everything of the stuff they play with. Like World War Z, fantastic. Warhammer, fantastic. I expect Jurassic Park to be fantastic. This looks completely in character, fantastic. Heck, like they they haven't brought it up in a long time, but I think they are still technically the ones keeping the lights on that Knights of the Old Republic project, if that still even exists at this point.
Yeah.
So I Yeah, they're turning into like a kind of Obsidian studio where they can just crank out crazy production. Like maybe their titles aren't the largest scale, like in terms of gameplay length or something, but like as far as bang for your buck and value and creativity and fun and visuals or like whatever like aspect they choose to focus on for that particular game, they're aces. I'm looking forward to just about anything they launch. Oh, and Painkiller, like yet another
Oh
game
yeah,
from
yeah,
them.
yeah. I don't know how they can like pump
They
out
have
the
a
games.
type.
Yeah, I mean the thing I like about them is they stick to mainly single player, and a lot of adult games. I'd say. Um, I know when Space Marine 2 came out, they said that it did so well that for them as a studio, they had to restructure it in a good way. Like they have to completely change the culture and how they make games because they didn't expect Space Marine 2 to pop off. Like Space Marine 2 was so good and so popular that literally my local games workshop was filled with people. Like normally there's like 5 people max. It's a pretty big games workshop, but there was like tons of people in there just looking at Space Marine stuff. So like that's just because of their video game, the most nichest, nerdiest sci-fi property on the planet, Warhammer 40k. Right? They made a mainstream game. Love it. Um, I'm sure everything they're gonna make going forward is gonna be amazing. I'm gonna support it. Like that game looks phenomenal. Um, I don't think we've actually ever seen a Hellraiser game. Ever?
He's had cameos, but I don't know about an actual just game. I don't think so.
Yeah. I will say this though, because I thought this was funny. So I saw someone on Twitter, I can't remember who said it, and they said exactly what I was thinking. Thank God this wasn't a 4v1 horror game.
Oh yes, I would have been very
Yeah.
annoyed.
Because
Like those are fun, but not for me.
yeah, it feels like I kind of got the vibe from the teaser trailer. The teaser trailer was just a TV surrounded by candles and stuff. But I kind of thought, are they going to announce a 4v1 horror game like Dead by Daylight or any of that stuff? Like, it's not for me. If people like it, that's great. But come on, can we stop getting those games? Like, I saw a teaser trailer a while back for. It was just the introduction of the ghost face character from Scream. Like, I thought
Hmm.
we were getting a Scream game, and it was for a character in Dead by Daylight. Right?
Hmm.
I was heartbroken. I love Scream. No games for me. But yeah, Hellraiser, it looks cool. And yeah, my prediction is we're going to get a game trailer at the Jeff Keighley Gamescom showcase in, I think it's the second week. I'll have to check. Second week of August. And then we'll get the game in October. Let's see what we've got next. Oh, this is juicy. So, now just after last week's show, I think it was the Wednesday, the Cyberpunk, the official Twitter account, was teasing this update event. And CD Projekt Red, they do these little live streams where they announce new features, and I think it's really cool. However, they announced a bunch of cool features such as new nano paints for your cars. I forgot what they're called. So you can basically, if you see a car drive past you and you like the color of it, you can basically take that color and apply it to the car you're driving. Really cool feature. There's new photo mode tools. You can't really go wrong with it. And just stuff like that. And also a variable refresh rate. So we did have that on Xbox anyway. However, it's on PlayStation now, but they've also updated the Xbox version of VRR. So everyone wins, really. And I thought that was really cool, right? A 5-year-old single-player game is still getting support. Even if it's in the form of photo mode stuff, VRR, I will take it. I think it's really good that we're getting stuff like this, right? Hell, I'm still that nerd wanting multiplayer for Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Am I going to get that? No, because I'm not that bloody lucky. But Cyberpunk, cool update. Now imagine my reaction, Logan, going online and seeing absolute pandemonium because they didn't announce New Game Plus and third person mode. I should have saw this coming because that's what people like, but if people thought like Cyberpunk is and we're going to be talking about third person stuff in a minute for a different game, but like to play Cyberpunk in third person, they would literally have to retool the entire game. That game has a ton of close quarter scenarios, such as like the inside of buildings, the way cutscenes play out in first person. Like they'd essentially have to redirect every first person cutscene in the game. They'd have to reanimate the character for everything in the game because shortly after Cyberpunk came out in 2020, some PC modders tried to make a third-person camera, and they realized that, oh wait, your character doesn't actually move like a human being, right? In most first-person games, we have this first-person body, and we are essentially a floating camera, right? So, like, Cyberpunk would need to be reworked from the ground up, and the only third-person element that's in the game right now is when you drive a car. So, to me, I didn't expect a third-person mode. New Game Plus is always a bonus. Hopefully we get that at some point. But I think the people wanting a third-person mode for Cyberpunk this late in the game, 5 years later, it's so unrealistic. But hey, I'm happy with the update they put out. And they did kind of hint that they were going to see more updates in the future when it comes to, like, you know, maybe hairstyles and stuff. But I think people's expectations were just way too high for a 5-year-old game to get a patch. But yeah, Logan, what's your take? Because what they put out is cool. I think it's cool that a single-player game's getting support 5 years later, but people expecting third-person mode, it's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always glad to see good games get more content and updates and upgrades and, you know, revamps and stuff. So this is good news. Like, a third person mode would be really cool, not gonna lie, but that's kind of something like for a game this massive, you would have needed to have that in mind at the beginning or near the beginning to try to do. Like, you know, there's a reason Bethesda, you know, does their games the way they do in their creation engine, or, you know, the Oblivion remake was
Yeah.
able to do it, you know, studying and mastering, revisiting an older game, where you can play third person or first person and it feels good
Yeah.
because they specifically tailor it from the beginning to do both. It's not like, hey, everybody loves this. Why don't you actually, you know, completely revamp the entire mechanics and visuals and movement system of the entire world? Not just your character, but of the world and how everything is viewed. Just, you know, 5 years. It's asking a lot. If they could do that, yeah, that'd be cool. But I totally wouldn't expect it. I do think a new game plus seems kind of like it should happen because, you know, Witcher 3 got a new game
Yeah.
plus, a bunch of their other games get it. It's kind of like, I don't know if industry standard is the right term, but more often than not, you see a new game plus in these big character driven, heavy RPG or action based games where you gain a bunch of abilities, you travel, you know, gain new items and gear, and, you know, you gain all the stuff by the end, and you're like, man, it sure would have been awesome for that first boss if I had this awesome double bladed lightsaber compared to, you know, now or whatever. And so then you can go back and do it. And then also, you know, traverse some of the hidden areas you couldn't get to before and stuff. So to me, I think it's a good idea. But the third person, yeah, that's a very, very tall ask for a game this old.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, hopefully New Game Plus will come at some point. They said they're still going to support the game. And in the last financial briefing, they showed the amount of people working on each game. So there's Witcher 4, there's Osiris, which I believe is the next Cyberpunk game. They have a new IP in the works as well. They have a small team making stuff for Cyberpunk 2077 still, so we could still see, you know, a New Game Plus, which, you know, as an RPG you kind of want. People that play RPGs tend to replay them. I mean, look who you're talking to here. Do you know how many times I rolled over my original Mass Effect save? Right, when Legendary Edition came out, shocker, I'm talking about Mass Effect again. Like when Legendary Edition came out, I'm not even kidding. That was the second time ever I ever experienced a fresh save. Right, because I used to just roll over my New Game Plus character every single playthrough because I'm a nerd. But still, hopefully we get that in Cyberpunk. Now, speaking of third-person modes, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. This is actually a big news story, and I'm so happy for the game. And for people that are listening right now or later, I'm so excited for you because when a game is announced and it's announced for first person or third person, I'm indifferent, right? I don't care. I just want a good game. I never really sit and think, oh, this needs to be third person or first person. It just, does the developer have a vision? Is it cool? Nice. But with Avatar, it's the one time I've thought it would make so much sense to be third person because you have your customized Navi character. You have a game world where you climb lots of ledges. Like it's a game where you platform a lot. And it kind of makes sense because when you're on a mount in that game, it is third person. So, and with it being Ubisoft, there's lots of stealth elements. And considering how like it came out around about the same time of the second movie, I think, or it might have been a year later. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Like it's easy to see that like third person games like that are easy to market to people. I think. But anyway, the game had its 2 expansions. It's had a ton of quality life improvements since launch, like a ton of them. But anyway, they just randomly came out yesterday and said, "Hey, by the way, it's getting New Game Plus." Well, hey, bloody great feature for that game because you can start the game off with every ability in the game, and yeah, so they get New Game Plus, but also they're dropping a third-person mode in December, right before the new movie comes out. Now, a few months ago, it might have been the last time I was talking about Frontiers of Pandora on this channel, I was saying that they could use the next movie as a secondary launch because one of my biggest complaints is that Ubisoft did not market that game at all, right? You have one of the biggest properties on the planet that's only had 2 movies, right? So they could have, I think Ubisoft was basically banking on the entire Avatar fan base just to go out and buy the game anyway, willy-nilly. No, you need people to know that the game exists. So my theory is that they are using this third-person mode. They're going to repackage the Game of the Year version or whatever, with the DLC, and they're going to have a relaunch for the game. Because that new film, it's probably going to crack 2 billion. It's going to be huge. As you can tell, I'm a huge Avatar fan. And it's going to give this game a new life because it came out, it bombed from what I can tell. But it's a great game. It's really good. It was severely overlooked. Ubisoft didn't market the bloody thing, and it has an extremely rich, alive, open world. And even though I put like over 40, 50 hours in or something, I'm gonna save the rest of that game for when that third person mode drops because they did show a little bit. They showed about 15 seconds of third person gameplay. It looks great, right? I mean, you already have third-person mode for the mounts. It just makes sense. And you have third-person aiming when you're on a mount. So for me, this is excellent news for people listening that have never played the game. You're essentially getting a brand new shiny game in December. Logan, what do you think? Because I can't remember whether you said you bought it or not yet.
I actually bought like the ultimate or the one right below it on digital sale when it finally dropped to like, that 40 to 60-ish sweet spot. And that would be a perfect time for me to jump in once they add that.
Yeah. I think that I don't know if are you still there, Logan? Because I don't know if you cut out there.
Yeah, I was saying that'd be a perfect time for me to jump in when they add the third person mode.
Okay. Yeah, like too many people slept on that game, and the thing is, every time you see a third person or a AAA game, shall I say, they're about to come out, there's always some like weird controversy up in the air about the game, and a lot of it feels kind of manufactured because that's a good way to get clicks. Avatar didn't really have any of that, right? It didn't have any negative backlash. It's just, and it was reviewed kind of well. It's just that, Ubisoft didn't market the bloody game. But the best way I can describe it is it's a Far Cry style game, but with Red Dead Redemption 2 level open world and gameplay immersion. right? Because while I think Far Cry games are fun open worlds, the worlds don't really feel alive. But in Red Dead Redemption, the world feels alive, and you get that in Avatar. So you have part Far Cry and a living open world like Red Dead, and it's just great. It really is. The thing that makes that game is its vertical open world. Like, we have never seen a proper forest like this in a video game. Like, I'm of the firm belief that I might get here for this. When you see a mountain in a video game, there's a chance that it's not really a mountain, it's just a big hill, right? Mountains in video games are just called mountains, right? But I think that goes for, things like forests as well. I think video games do forests kind of bad, right? Yeah, you have a bunch of trees in Oblivion and, Zelda games and stuff, but I wouldn't call them forests, like deep forests. But Avatar, this game, it's huge. Like, if you want, I'm nerding out about Avatar here, and it's one of the coolest things about this game is that you could be flying high up in the air, and if you see one of these massive trees with the leaves that are literally the size of a car, you can jump off and use these leaves to, like, slow your descent. Like, it's so cool. And a few people did reply to me saying, like, but isn't this the same situation for Cyberpunk? Like, Cyberpunk, that main character isn't animated anywhere in third person. Avatar is, right? You play most of that game pretty much on a mount if you're traveling from place to place and you're aiming. So they have that camera right, like, hands down already. They have the aiming in third person. It's just that they go on the full route this time. And I think it's going to give the game a new lease of life. It's going to probably do really well because if they market this alongside the new movie, and, James Cameron did have some input with the video game. So, like, I think he would want the game to do well. But, hey, it's a win for everyone. Third-person mode, I think they said it's coming out the 5th of December. It looks cool. What can I say? Let's see. We've still got a bunch of stuff to talk about. You know what? Let's talk about this quickly. So, there's a game called No Rest for the Wicked. Now, this is made by the Ori developer, Moon Studios, and this game was announced a couple of years ago for PC, and it's a kind of a roguelike, Souls-like type game with a really cool, unique art style. It's got this, I want to say, a sort of oil painting look. The camera is a top-down perspective. It's kind of isometric, and when it released on Steam, it had a bunch of positive reviews. A lot of people liking it, and then it had a bunch of backlash, not because the game's bad, it's just some people wanted certain features they didn't put in, some people said the game didn't feel finished, but also, apparently the workplace had a toxic work environment, right? And then shortly after that, the developer said that, hey, our studio might not even be open a month from now, allegedly, because, we're getting review bombed on Steam, so please help us out. Get our, average review score upwards. Have it positive. So, basically begging for people to like the game on Twitter. Sorry, on Steam. Well, anyway, I minded my own business last night. Doing my own thing. And my notifications are popping off. I'm just included in a bunch of people's posts because people were angry that, this developer didn't come out and say, hey, look, we're indie developer. We can only port one game to one platform at a time. That's called PR management, which they clearly don't have. That would have been the correct way to word this, and not a single person would have batted an eye, right? Because, do you know what? There's games that are coming to Xbox that aren't coming to PlayStation just yet because the developer is concentrating on one platform at a time. It happens on all of these platforms. Hell, another game that came to PlayStation a couple of years ago is coming to Xbox next month. It's called Viewfinder. Very cool looking indie game. But they could only make it for one or two platforms at a time because they had such a small team and limited funds. That's perfectly fine. Gamers understand this. However, it's the way they worded it on Twitter. They were being very, I want to say, negative, attentive, and just kind of desperate at the same time. They were coming out saying, "Look, we need we as a business, we have to make this game for the largest possible user base." But at the same time, when developers say this, they act like there's like 80 million PlayStations out there, 80 million Switches, 5,000, I was going to say 5,000 million, but 5 billion, PCs out in the wild, and 4 dudes with an Xbox, right? There's tens of millions of people with series consoles and over 70 million people with an Xbox One, right? These developers keep making it seem like the Xbox user base is tiny, but it's not. So, like, saying that doesn't make any sense, especially considering there's more Xbox Series consoles out there than Switch 2s because the Switch is a new console. So, him saying that technically doesn't make any sense. It was worded badly. I think that, again, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Your games are what made your studio. And who bought your games, who played your games? It was Xbox fans, right? I say this time and time again where maybe a developer is just, they don't like Microsoft for whatever reason, so they'll take it out on the fans. Like, they go about it the wrong way. And this was handled a very bad way. Some random person on Twitter replied to this developer saying, look, if you're not going to support Xbox Day 1 and just prioritize other consoles, because that's just the way you're going forward with it, in like the negative way he was, I can't support your game. And he was basically called selfish. It's like, not everyone has multiple consoles, and if he's wanting to feel like a second-class citizen, that's him. Some of these developers, they go about it the wrong way. Remember a couple of years ago, there was a game being announced called Quantum Error, I believe it was called. It was this, first-person shooter. Nobody ever heard of it. And this developer went out on Twitter and was arguing with people, getting themselves invested in the console war, because guess what? People start talking about that game. There were articles made about it. People were making videos about it. People were talking about it on podcasts because that's what we do. And when the game came out, after people saying, why isn't this game coming to Xbox? The game came out, bombs. Nobody liked it. Terrible game. The game developer has also done it multiple times since then, by the way. And one of the things I've came up with is that I think that one of the reasons that last night happened when it comes to No Rest for the Wicked, nobody was talking about the game. It's free marketing. You have everyone, like I am right now, talking about this game on podcasts all of a sudden. A game that came out in early access, a year and a half ago on PC, where nobody's talking about the game anymore. You don't have huge content creators really covering the game anymore. But you have like everyone that runs a podcast talking about it because, they're not porting this game to Xbox. It's very suspicious. Now, this game has been marred in controversy since it was basically, released in early access. And they've had issue after issue, especially in the public eye. Some of these developers, they go about these things the wrong way. All he had to say was, we're a small studio. We can only port to one platform at a time. That's literally it. And by the way, I don't have media training. It's called common sense. Right? So to me, I understand why people wouldn't want to support the game when and if it ever does come to Xbox. But another thing this developer said is that, maybe it'll come to Xbox at the same time, allegedly, is that if they get help from Xbox, what exactly does that mean? Help from Xbox? Are you talking about programmers?
A bag.
Yeah. Are you talking about programmers, going over to your studio, maybe helping out with some dev kits? Because guess what? If that's the case, that's cool, right? I don't understand how to make a game on a dev kit, so that would make perfect sense. However, that kind of came off as, like Logan said, wanting the bag. What do you mean by help from Microsoft? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? That sounds like you want some money from, $4 trillion worth Microsoft? They want a handout. That's my opinion. It's a lot of others' opinion. And by the way, I don't think they've been bought off by Sony. I've seen people bring this up. No, I think they legit want a bag. They're a developer that they basically act like a scorned ex with Microsoft. And to me, this genre of games, it's not for me anymore. I cannot play Souls-like roguelites anymore. Like, I will play Dark Souls, I will play Elden Ring, and I'm good. But, I don't really play those games anymore, so it's not really for me. I will cover the game if I have to. But I feel like what happened last night was a desperate seek for attention, and it works because we're all talking about it. And by the way, that's why I didn't put the name of the game or the studio in the title, because I honestly think the way they went about it the wrong way, unless they go and apologize to their actions, which came off a bit childish and fanboyish. Uh, I'm not going to even acknowledge that studio or the game by name in the title, that is. But that's just my take. Logan, what's yours? Because uh, it kind of did anger a lot of people last night.
Yeah, it's not exactly a black white thing to me because on one hand, like you give really good points and real good evidence that, supports that about like this is the same studio that worked with Microsoft before on the Ori games. They did really good, but then there was reports of some things, that weren't so wonderful behind the scenes and stuff to where that partnership seemed to have run its course. And then like you throw out like, well, now, we're not going to prioritize that platform, and or maybe we will if we get help from Microsoft. And so then it kind of just seems like you're mad about something and you're holding it against the fans of a platform or something instead of just, doing business to try to, work something out. And then there's the whole it's funny on that hand, and then on another hand, this is the same studio that reportedly, from some rumors, wanted to take a crack at a Banjo title, and I don't think this is the
Nah.
best way to go about winning that bid. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't think this is the best approach for winning that bid. Like, I think Toys for Bob might have lapped that one at this point. Just putting that out there. But yeah, going back to just like on one hand, I do find it really annoying because there are a lot of games I see that are announced. Like I follow a lot of indie stuff and developers, and you know, and group chats and stuff with a bunch of people who play a bunch of different stuff. And I see a lot of fun titles skip the platform and for various reasons. And so it gets annoying. They start adding up, and then you see another one. And so then your first instinct is, fight or flight. Like, oh, great, here we go again. Another game is skipping. And, on the surface, yeah, it is another game skipping. And this time, it's not just an Asian game. And that's not meant as a slam or a slight in any way at all. When I say that, I mean a bunch of the criticism people always put out is like, that man, these games are skipping. And people are like, well, they don't have a presence over there. Or, oh, that's niche. Or, oh, this or that. Or nobody here on this platform cares about that, which is definitely not accurate. But so it's like when it becomes a game that's from a European studio or an American studio, I think it definitely does bring more eyes to it and more people go, hey, wait just a gosh dang minute. Like, why isn't this coming to my Xbox? Like, what is the deal with this? Like, who do you think you are? Kind of stuff. And I don't know. It's just a bad situation all around. I want all the games to go everywhere. People can play whatever, and it's just I hope they get it resolved because it just seems to be more negative attention, even if it's not directly their fault. Maybe in this situation.
Yeah, I just saw in chat, Joe Sinister. Love to see you here, by the way. Um, he mentioned that this is the same situation as Lawbreakers. The cliff.
Oh yeah, that doomed them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Cliffy B first person shooter. That I mean, look, if you make a what year was it? 2016, 2017, or something like that. Like you making a
It was early one PS4. Yeah.
yeah, like you making a Overwatch competitor, and you're not going to put it on an Xbox. Like, are you out of your mind? Like the shooter box. You're not going to put your shooter game on the shooter box. Really, it's just like we see this happen over and over again. Stupid, silly decisions. Sometimes these developers learn, sometimes they don't. And look, I hope this game comes out, to Xbox for people that want it. It's great. It doesn't hurt to have more games on the platform, but I see these developers, and not all of them. It's like a very small portion of developers that do this. Like they put their foot in their mouth all the time, and I honestly don't know why. Can they just not stay off social media? Maybe get some media training. Like you can literally read free material and tells you how to act on social media, right? They clearly need that source material, but it's a shame. It really is. And again, before last night, no one was talking about this game. No one. But now they're in the eye of everyone because it's made the news. Oh, what's this? A game is skipping Xbox. And I'm not going to mention these people by name, but you know what I'm talking about. The usual suspects. They're saying, oh, this game's skipping Xbox because of this and this. It's like, no, they want attention, and they got it. Congratulations. And you know what? When this game does come to Xbox, if it does, I probably won't even cover it on the channel. I won't include it in an upcoming game list because, honestly, what they do this time, it feels shady. I don't like this kind of behavior. And like I said, 20 minutes ago, all they had to do was say we can only make the game for one platform at a time. That's it. Nobody would have batted an eye, right? If I remember correctly, isn't Mecha Break only on Xbox and PC at the minute?
That is correct.
Right.
And I think Exomecha as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, at least, Mecha Break, nobody's crying about it. The developer didn't say anything stupid. It's just not on PlayStation yet. Will it be on PlayStation? More than likely, But who cares, right? Nobody's crying about it. The developer didn't say something stupid. Everyone moves on with the rest of their day. But you have this guy popping off, replying to people, and oh my god, it's tiring. It's something every week. Something has to happen every week. And it's like nothing really bad has happened, but people have to pop off and, act like it's the end of the world because another game is skipping Xbox. The developer wants attention. In my opinion. Anyway, we'll move on because we still have a lot of topics to cover. You know what? We'll talk about this because, I don't really like to cover these rumors a lot, but, it happened on Xbox Era today, and we kind of have to talk about it. So, Nick from over at Xbox Era came out and said that Fable may be delayed to 2027. Right? To me, I have the same opinion about this as I do on every other delay. I'm sick and tired of games coming out broken, missing features, and honestly, I'm sick of it. Right? The previous generation was marred with broken game after broken game. And I won't just use Cyberpunk as an example. It happened a lot. That last generation started and we start getting broken games all the time. So if a developer wants to delay a game, I'm perfectly fine for it. Some games get delayed to, move out of the way for other releases. And sometimes games that get delayed because they have a broader vision, they want to add things. Who cares? And by the way, this is Playground Games' first role-playing game. So if it hypothetically does get delayed, I'll say this. It's a bloody shame because I was looking forward to it, but it's not the end of the world, right? Next year's... I've already got a list of games for what's coming out next year. My God, it's going to be a really good year for releases. Microsoft already has multiple games coming next year, which they haven't yet to announce. So, Microsoft's first-party roadmap as of now is going to be really good next year, whether Fable releases or not. I would love to play Fable right now, but I would rather play a version that works, maybe a version that's better. And what I saw last year, it looks really good. In fact, a few months ago, Microsoft put a clip out on their podcast on their official YouTube channel. It was about 30 seconds long. Had new gameplay. It was the main character fighting a griffin and that type of thing. It was really cool. But again, this isn't official. Look, Baldur's Gate 3 got delayed several times. Released, and it won Game of the Year and multiple different outlets. People say it's one of the best games ever made. And yeah, I'm perfectly fine with delays. It's just a shame, you know. Like, hell, Mass Effect, again, third time during this show I'm talking about Mass Effect. Mass Effect Legendary Edition was delayed, right? Cyberpunk was delayed several times and it launched broken, but that's because they had to meet the quarterly and they had a bunch of issues. My point is that if it happens, it's a shame. Logan, what's your take? Because, again, we see delays happen and people freak out like it's the end of the world. And by the way, you already have people saying it's going to get cancelled. And you also have, and this is the funny one I always see, it's been delayed, and I've seen this multiple times before the show went live. It's been delayed to prioritize the PlayStation version. Right? Let me tell you, no developers actually think like that, right? Right? The game's been made for Xbox and PC as of now. If that changes, it'll change. But like, if you think a video game developer is going to delay a game a year just so they can release it on a different platform at the same time, you're out of your freaking mind. Fable is going to print money when it comes out because, one, you have a built-in fan base. You have people that subscribe to Game Pass. You have more people that are going to subscribe to Game Pass to play that game. And obviously, they're going to have merchandise and all that stuff. So it's going to generate revenue the second it's out. Right? That's a kind of game where you can release a game later on a different platform if they have to or if they want to, because it's not a live service game. Right? It doesn't have to come out the same day elsewhere to sell microtransactions. So, like, people that are coming out saying that, they are literally painting clown makeup on their face. Right? So, Logan, what's your take?
Yeah, to me, I mean, it's a bummer. Like, I would love to play Fable tomorrow if I could, but, giving it some more time is not a big deal to me, especially, like, I know the it's not a perfect comparison, but it's the best comparison I can think of as somebody who's followed the industry or played games for a long time. Like, you remember Gorilla, who did Killzone,
Oh, yeah.
like the trilogy, and like all these like very sci-fi intense shooters, gritty, dystopian, very clear aesthetic and vibe, mechanics, gameplay that they were going for. Then they spent like 6+ years, I think, maybe even 7, working on shifting from that to an entirely different genre, which was, Horizon Zero Dawn, which it wasn't incredible, but it was good. And a lot of people enjoyed it. I did. And, but it was their first attempt at something different. And they really needed time to master shifting genres and mechanics. And it's like a whole different ball game, even from those. So I can only imagine that you're going from a game that has no combat, no, no like real story. There are some loose story things, but like not like super ingrained worlds and lores and characters and mechanics of combat or styles or views and stuff. And you're going from a racing game to an RPG. That is a big old climb. That is a big old world of difference of a type of experience you're going from. Both great, but entirely different. So the fact that they would need what would feel like an era basically to get a game out, to me is not a big flag or a concern. To me it's like, well, what did you expect? This is not like, asking somebody who, works on this style of device to all of a sudden, jump to an entirely different industry almost to try to make something. It's like, just because they're an engineer doesn't mean they know how to engineer this. And so to me it's not a problem. And I wonder if it is delayed, if they would try to launch it with maybe next gen at this point, if you're gonna delay it anyway. Not saying they would, but it's something I'm pondering.
Yeah, I mean, my original idea was that I thought they were going to launch Fable in like February or March next year. But if it
Mhm.
is true that we're getting next gen hardware out, like we don't know what really is coming out next year. Like, not really. You know, we've been told that there's a Forza coming, there's a Fable coming. So a Forza, a Gears, and a Halo. And, like,
The Trinity.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Trinity. And, like, if you look back 5 years ago, like, the Xbox Series X and S launched with 0 first-party games. So, like, what if Microsoft now wanting to not only have a good launch, but have a good launch window? Because, like, a lot of platforms, they have this problem where, like, they'll either launch with a bunch of games and have a lull for a long time, or they'll, like, have, like, nothing launch with the console. Like, Microsoft, they launched with 0 first-party games. They relied on, third-party and, all the upgrades and stuff, right? But, like, this time, Microsoft could potentially launch. Obviously, they're going to launch with a new Call of Duty game, which next year will be Modern Warfare 4. Yeah, Modern Warfare 4. They could potentially launch with a Halo game, Gears, Forza, and, maybe have Fable launch in the February of 2027. My God, these years sound way too futuristic. By the way, we are in the year where Pacific Rim is set. Isn't that depressing?
Oh, come on. Really?
Yep.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, that futuristic film with the massive mechs. Yeah, we don't have massive mechs. We have just crap. I can barely get a printer to work. But yeah, I mean, hey, if it gets delayed, it gets delayed. It's a shame, because like I love Fable. Right, Fable 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and Fable to me, it's a staple for Xbox. Right, you have Halo, you have Gears, you have Forza, and Fable's right there for me. Like Fable 3 had its issues, but Fable 2 is bloody incredible, and you're gonna have that whimsical like world, but with like Witcher 3-esque combat and like cutscenes. To me, that's incredible. And like you said, Logan, like they make Forza, right? Typically, even though this is a different team, that's the studio that makes a racing game. Drive forward, drive back, turn. That's it. That's the gameplay mechanics, right? So you have an RPG with interconnected cutscenes, dialogue choices, maybe, scenarios that can play out differently. You have a living open world, right? Third person combat, right? Story. So like it's a big task for them. And as what Miyamoto once said, what was that saying? I saw it in chat earlier. I have to read it out again. I can't see it. But basically, a delayed game ends up being better. Long story short. Or there's Miyamoto, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Thanks, Pyro.
Yes.
But yeah, that's essentially it. Right? Yeah, you do have your occasional Duke Nukem Forever, where it was in development for like 13 years, but that game had a ton of issues. They had feature creep. Basically, whenever a new game came out with some cool new feature, they thought, you know what? Our game needs that. And it put off the game another year. And another year. And eventually, like, that game was announced in the 90s. And it came out in, 2011? Actually, I'm going to search this. Duke Nukem Forever. Right. I need to check this.
That game is a giant cluster.
Yeah. Right, let's see. So it came... Oh, yeah, 2011. So that game was announced in the 90s. Right? Wow. Okay, so it was announced in 96? What the hell? Sorry, announced in 97, following the success of Duke Nukem 3D. It was delayed several times. Yeah, right. They had multiple changes of game engine, but yeah, feature creep killed that game. But that is like one of the few examples like that. I'm sure Fable's going to be fine. You know what? We'll move on. We've still got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Now, Logan, it's the Helldivers 2 stuff caused a bit of a stir 3 weeks ago. However, the Helldivers community, by the way, clearly awesome. They've been wanting backup since the game came out. And, Xbox fans, they have a lot of, familiarity and experience fighting aliens and robots. Like, you have decade-old veterans of people playing, games like Halo and Gears. We've fought Covenant, we've fought the Flood, we've fought the Locust, right? And their fan base, they want that on their side. I think Helldivers is going to be a huge success on Xbox. It's basically Halo ODST, but set on different maps. because Halo 3 ODST didn't really have a lot of interesting maps, in my opinion. Great game, though. But the question keeps coming up: will we see other PlayStation games? Now, if you go back to like 2016, when Microsoft first announced Quantum Break for PC, some people lost their marbles, you know, called out Phil Spencer online, over a game going to PC, even though these people play Call of Duty and all their third-party games on console that are also available on PC. Them putting games on PC never really bothered me. Like, I thought it was a bit weird that people lost their mind. If anything, it benefits me because they get more money and it goes back into games. And people said Sony would never do that. And then they eventually did. More games went to PC, and people were like, you know what? It's not going to be day and date. It's going to be 5 years. Then it was 3 years. Then it was 2 years. Then 1 year. Then people start saying, you know what? It's just going to be live service games that are multi-platform. And that's actually a good argument. However, last time I checked, Lego Horizon Adventures isn't a live service game. It launched on PC and the Switch the same day as PlayStation. And nobody batted an eye. Nobody was crying, saying, this is the end of Sony. It's going to be the end of Sony and them making hardware because they're porting games to other consoles. Nobody was doing that. You didn't have GameSpot and Eurogamer coming out saying, like, oh, this is the last Xbox console because of exclusives and whatnot. Nobody was crying. Wasn't the end as near type thing. And here we are, Helldivers, coming to Xbox a year after PlayStation. And even though it is a live service game, it's a co-op game and it launched a year later. If anything, it makes more sense to launch a live service game the same time because you have a bigger player pool, paying for microtransactions, and obviously keeping the player pool alive, right? So, like, I do think Sony will bring more games to Xbox, but I really think it does depend on one thing. How well does the game sell? Right? You have the baseball game. They have that license. You have to put it on everything. I get that. But Helldivers, like, this is a third-person shooter where you shoot aliens, right? You shoot aliens and robots in the face with big guns, right? Xbox gamers, we like that stuff, right? I like that stuff, and it's sci-fi. I dig that. I think if this game sells well, I think you're going to see older Sony games on Xbox. I don't think you're going to see, like, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. I don't think you're going to see those on Xbox anytime soon, by any stretch of the imagination. But you've had Spider-Man sitting on a server for years. If you don't own a PlayStation already to play Spider-Man, you're probably not going to buy a PlayStation for Spider-Man. What about Days Gone? Brand new IP. Sony had colossal success with it. Decided to not make sequels because it didn't make decent Metacritic scores, that was silly. I could potentially see them bring Days Gone to Xbox. Even older titles that were made by other companies such as Heavy Rain, the Heavy Rain remaster, and I forgot the other game that developer made, but they could potentially bring those to Xbox. I think we live in a reality now where it's completely possible. Yeah, it was only live service games until it wasn't. Again, Lego Horizon Adventures is not a live service game. It's single player / co-op. Look at how much money Spider-Man would make on Xbox, right? We don't have an open world superhero game like that on Xbox. Not really. You have the Arkham games, but those maps are relatively small, and we haven't had an open world Spider-Man game on Xbox since The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was delisted a few months after it came out. So it would print money. And you're going to have people that, they lose the marbles, they're going to act like it's the end of the world. But at the end of the day, Sony is a money-making business. And if Helldivers makes money, they're going to look to do what Microsoft did. Because guess what? When Microsoft start putting their games on PC, they start making more money. That when portable PC devices came out, they start making more money. Like, all these companies, they aren't our best friends. They just want to make money. And Sony, they start following the money trail when they start putting more games on PC. I think they'll do the same for Xbox. We're going to... I'd be shocked if we don't see Helldivers 2 on Switch 2 at some point this year. But that's just me. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, I think this is just the first to come for Sony games on the platform and multi-platform. Like, I would be colossally shocked if Helldivers 2 isn't in the top 5, top 10 for like at least a few weeks once it launches on Xbox. I expect it to, be a barn burner, just sell like hotcakes, have crazy high engagement numbers, and to perform well. And I reckon like it would be easy to do ODST crossover content or Gears content. Like I expect it to have a very substantial Xbox presence. And like you said, for other games coming over, I agree. I think some of their tentpole ones they're gonna be slower footed on moving the gears on those for coming over. But some of the older stuff, yeah, I could for sure. Like Until Dawn, we talked about
Oh
earlier,
yeah,
is part of a genre. That one seems like a no brainer. Like you've already remastered or remade it for PC, and there's a movie out, like kind of affiliated, but like not wonderfully done on that regard, but still Until Dawn. So there's a reason to put it out. And, there's like the older Killzone games, Resistance, SOCOMs, Infamous games, like stuff like that. Like you bring it to Xbox, we talk about how we love shooters and sci-fi stuff. Like that on Xbox would sell hotcakes again. Like people would love those. And Spider-Man is like probably the biggest named no-brainer.
yeah,
Like in a world where Star Wars is pretty much multi-platform, Lord of the Rings, all those others, like Marvel should be as well. It has been so obnoxious having it to where it's like, okay, cool. We have all these Marvel franchises. They go everywhere except this one character who he's only allowed on this one thing, and then everything else it just it's everything but him. And then it's like even for expansions or DLCs, he's just hidden away, and it's been dumb. Like I get it business wise, but at the same time, I think in today's world where business plans are shifting and budgets are ballooning out of control, and you're needing to make quick return on investment, you have a great porting studio in Nixus, who I think is helping with the
yeah.
Helldivers too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah,
Who better to get like a Demon Souls remake onto Xbox? That's another one, or a Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Miles Morales, or some of these other games. Like clearly you've already thought about some of this to where you have invested in your own PC porting studio. So Xbox and PCs are going to be more synonymous going forward. So, and especially it would be a way to work around the whole Steam thing. You had Knucklehead dialogue about, oh, they'll just pull their games from Steam or put some mandate that'll block it from certain devices. Like, a way around that, just give the games away yourself directly. You get that money yourself 100%. So, yeah, I totally see more games coming. But like you said, I don't see a God of War or a Horizon Zero Dawn or Last of Us or something like that soon. But the other ones, yeah.
yeah. You know what would be cool? A God of War collection of the old games.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. Like a Dante's
Yeah,
Inferno, type. Yeah, those were fun in the day. I love those.
yeah. I mean, look, I think the whole multi-platform thing scares a lot of people. Um, but at the same time, like, who really cares, right? like, I think you see all these studios shutting down constantly all over the place, and like we know these games. Like, look, I'm an Xbox guy, right? I prefer the ecosystem. I prefer the controller. I like the achievements, right? I would much rather prefer. I'm not really a PC guy. I play 2 games on PC, one of which will never come to console because it can't. But like, I'm a console gamer, and I prefer the Xbox ecosystem. You have the same with PlayStation. You have hell. Look at PC. We were talking about this before. Nobody's bloody buying Alan Wake 2 on the Epic Store. Right? Like, that was such a huge mistake of like making that deal with Epic because people want to buy that bloody thing on Steam. I've seen people in my feed talk about how they've always wanted to play Gears, and now they can. Like, really think about that as a sentence, right? There's people that have always wanted to play Gears since 2006, and they have absolutely refused to buy an Xbox to play it, right? No wonder these companies are doing these things, right? And another game which hasn't really been brought up, and I was actually surprised this isn't multi-platform. Sony's making a Marvel fighting game, and that being locked to one console, I think is a colossal, huge mistake, right? Because fighting games live and die based on their player base, and you are locking your fighting game to one console. Like, I've always said this, and I even said this before the multi-platform thing started. I think that if Killer Instinct 2 ever became a thing, Microsoft should put it on all consoles. Because that's how you should do a fighting game, right? Mortal Kombat, even though it had a bad Switch launch, it's on everything, right? I think fighting games specifically, they do need that. But like across the board, right, it's just a win for everyone. I've seen people call it port begging and whatever. Like, nobody in their right mind really thought Helldivers 2 would come to Xbox, right? Sony seemed the last company on Earth. Actually, no, Nintendo's the last company on Earth that'll do multi-platform stuff. But like Sony, they're a money-making company. They're gonna make money from this, and gamers are gonna win in the end. But like, look, when does Helldivers 2 come out on Xbox? It's like the 26th of August.
No, yeah, like August 28th, 26th, something like that.
Yeah, so like within 2 days of the game coming out, we're going to be able to open the Xbox store and see what it's doing, right? The store in the UK could be a bit glitchy, but like normally within 2 days we can see how a game's selling. Like, if Final Fantasy 16, a 2-year-old JRPG, can sell on Xbox, and it was a number 11 in the UK, which is actually really good considering Red Dead Redemption was on sale and FIFA was on sale. So like, it doing it at number 11, that's really good. I think a third-person shooter, it's going to do really well. Really well.
And it's cheaper too.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yeah, I think Helldivers, I think it's going to be $34.99 in the UK. That's a bloody good price. Has a bunch of maps and, more content now, like, so that's a win for everyone. And for people that don't own Gears, I think that's also I think that's actually $32.99 in the UK. But yeah, really good price, really good timing. And August is, I'm not even kidding, it's actually the best month for video games so far, but a bunch of the games aren't going to be full price. So like, that's another way these developers are going to like win. You have a new Dying Light, it's not full price. You have a new Mafia game, it's not full price. And you have these other games coming out which are significantly cheaper in a time where people are going to have more money because, let's be honest, who wants to leave the house when it's this hot? My God, it's unbearable. Nasty sunlight. It's going to be a good time for Sony.
Hashtag vampires.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so pale, man. So pale. Like, I think I'm like one step away from being a Witcher because I'm pale like a Witcher. I drink like a Witcher. Not far off. I'm getting there.
You swear like a Witcher.
Yeah. My God, if people could hear me swear when I play Call of Duty, their jaws would hit the floor. It's just a lot of F-bombs, but it's a lot of them. Like, a lot. But yeah, I think we will see more, PlayStation content. And who knows? They have Nexus, like you said. They've got to be making other games. Like most PlayStation exclusives are on PC at the minute. I know Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, and all that stuff. Those games are on PC, so what else are they doing? Xbox is the next logical step, and obviously Switch too. That will anger some people, I'm sure, but it is what it is. You know what? We still have Fable to talk about. So it kind of came out a while back that there's multiple job listings for Fallout games. And I know Todd Howard has talked about in the past that they need to pivot to make Fallout games or get Fallout games out quicker than they used to. If you look at Bethesda and how they make their single player RPGs, this is kind of sad, really. We are essentially at a point where we can get one Bethesda RPG a generation. That, to me, is an absolute travesty, right? Games take so long to make now, so we will get our, Elder Scrolls 6? I'm going to be generous and say next year. We will get Fallout 5 potentially going off this scale in 2032. My God.
That's so gross.
That's terrible. I don't like that. And that's such a futuristic sounding year. I'm expecting hover cars and holograms of Ana de Armas in the sky, but we're not that lucky. Fallout, we need more Fallout games. And, it kind of makes Microsoft to pivot and make a studio that's specifically for Fallout. And they could actually do that now. They have enough developers, they have enough studios, and looking at, Obsidian, they have several teams within Obsidian that make multiple games at the same time. I think, especially with all this, all these hirings going on, especially on LinkedIn for Fallout, I think that Microsoft has finally realized that we can't just have Bethesda Game Studios popping out an RPG a generation. So later on this year, the Fallout TV show is coming out. I think that's coming out in December. And my theory for the past year has been that the remake of 3 will come out by Virtual Studios around the same time as the TV show. So my theory is that Microsoft, they clearly had a huge success with Oblivion. It leaked years ago, so we already knew it was coming. Fallout was on that leaked list, so we know it's coming. I think Microsoft, they are wanting to potentially get out multiple remakes in between these big new games, but also have spin-offs as well. Because we can't live in a universe where, realistically, a sequel to Starfield is going to come out in 2039. That is terrible, right? Think about on the 360. We had 2 Elder Scrolls games that generation. We had 2 Fallouts, right? I would love it if we could have that output again. And we potentially could. We don't necessarily need to see Bethesda Game Studios specifically make Fallout, right? Why do we need to have a big open world Fallout game all the time? Why not make I don't know, this is a dream of mine. I would like to see a linear first-person shooter where you play as a Brotherhood of Steel soldier. Just as a spin-off experience. Have some smaller games. Maybe have In Exile make a new Fallout RPG. Maybe make an isometric game. Who cares? Fallout 4 was number 1 in the UK and Europe when that TV show came out, right? They garnered so much positivity off a bloody TV show on a streaming service that they had to realize, oh yeah, Fallout is still a household name. We can make absolute bank off this IP still. And people were playing Fallout again. Hell, Fallout 76 had a new lease of life because millions of people were playing it all of a sudden. So, finally, and we've both been trying to say this, a lot of people have been trying to say this online, Microsoft and these companies have to realize the dev time to get these games out, it's absurd now. They're going to need multiple teams working on these games, have multiple games in development at the same time. Look at Ubisoft. Ubisoft gets memed all the time, but them looking after Assassin's Creed as an IP, we're going to get an Assassin's Creed game essentially every other year. In some years, we're going to get 2 games, right? So, this year, apparently, from what I've heard, we could see a Fallout. We could see a Assassin's Creed remake come out later this year, right? So that'll be 2 Assassin's Creed games in 1 year, and I think they're treating that IP well, relatively. I think we could see the same for Fallout and Elder Scrolls, because look, realistically, going off how things are now, from what we know, we could see the Elder Scrolls 7 in 2043. No, I don't want this.
It sounds like such a fake year, man.
Yeah, it doesn't sound real. And then you look at, I know it's a different studio, but realistically, when is GTA 7 coming out? Realistically.
Well, it depends on when the GTA 6 remaster comes out.
Yeah, GTA 6 is going to be remastered, and it'll get its next gen upgrade in the form of another remaster. Like, I make these posts on social media all the time about how, like, and I like to reminisce about the seventh generation every 5 seconds. But like, wait, if you played a game today that you loved back in the 360, you were going to get multiple sequels that generation plus expansions. And now I think a lot with my posts on Twitter that kind of like popped off. I think a lot of people have realized the same thing. We had it so good.
We took it for granted, man.
Yeah, we took it for granted, right? How many God of War games happened that generation? There was what?
I can't even count them. There were so many.
Yeah, there was so many. Also, at the same time, you had the PSP games. You had 4 Gears of War games, 3 Batman Arkham games. And what do we have now? Yeah, 2050 is when GTA 7's coming out, right? I don't want to. No, that's a scary year. That sounds scary, right? But like that's the reality of the situation, right? You're gonna have nerds buy shark cards for the next 20 years until we get GTA 7. I think Microsoft finally realizing, and they want to get games out sooner because these IPs are so big. We shouldn't be getting one a game a generation. Like, and this goes to all studios and publishers. Like, they need to realize this. Look at EA. They wasted 10 years of that Star Wars license and put out 4 games. 4. They put 4 Star Wars games out in 10 years. Do you know how ridiculous that is? That's ridiculous. I just wanted to talk about Fallout because, like, them having all these different LinkedIn profiles and stuff, talking about Fallout and, hiring for Fallout, like, at least they are looking at the idea of having different developers at least make Fallout games. And I think Todd Howard would actually be open to that now because, look, Fallout, it's basically his now, right? I think he would like other studios to make it, maybe under his direction, but, like, look at Obsidian, right? Obsidian, they've came out with Avowed this year. They're coming out with Grounded 2 next week, and they're also coming out with bloody The Outer Worlds 2 in October. Right? 3 games. Why can't we have a smaller Fallout game? I would love to see a Avowed-sized Fallout game by Obsidian. And they could probably make that in 3 years. Right? So I'm hoping we see more spin-offs. It looks like that's going to be a thing. And, like, look, every so often we're going to have new pieces of hardware. Wouldn't it be cool to have, like, a new Fallout game launches with this new Xbox or anything like that, right? Logan, what's your take? Because we kind of reminisce and talk about the whole 7th gen thing all the time, but we did have it really good back then. And now, like, if you play a game, I'll just use one as an example, like the Expanse Osiris Reborn, right? Mass Effect fans are gonna drive that developer crazy talking about that game, but it's gonna sell millions, hopefully. And if that does well, we'll see sequels, maybe one a generation. So that applies to Fallout as well. What's your take on the whole thing? Because it looks like these studios are maybe beginning to realize.
Yeah, since the acquisition of Bethesda, Fallout has been one of their most mishandled. Like, even before the acquisition, like, Bethesda frankly wasn't treating it 100% the way it needed to. As why they were able to be bought in the first place. Fallout 76 was an absolute cluster cluck when it launched. It was horrible. Brand, negativity, toxicity image was all-time lows. They've rebounded and they've made it into a really fun, good game with a wonderfully nice, welcoming community. Yeah, it started off really, really, really bad. And, the fact that they were so bent on, we can only do one of these at a time. We can do Elder Scrolls, or we can do Fallout, or we can do this or that. We cannot multitask, or we cannot have any of these touch toes. It's like, that was fine when games were coming out at a 7th generation cadence, because at least it was like, okay, Elder Scrolls in, 2011, Fallout 2012, whatever. It's like a year. Yeah, okay, fine. But it's not that way anymore. So they clearly need to multitask and they need more talent. And as bad and as big a bummer it was for all those layoffs and all that stuff, one positive thing they can take from that is it sounds like they are redirecting talent and attention to we are waking this sleeping dragon that we've had here for ages. Fallout is a gargantuan creature that needs to be awoken and risen from its slumber. So I'm glad they're finally doing that. Like, theoretically, just throwing out some project ideas. Like, an In Exile could easily do a remaster or a remake of the original, like, Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics. Or you could have a studio like Virtuos or Nixus do that. You've got Fallout 3 remaster reportedly happening, and sooner than later. You've got, Fallout 2 New Vegas would be a no brainer. Obsidian is clearly knows what they're doing. They've done it before with Fallout as well. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. They can work with IPs that weren't 100% theirs at one point. And if you notice, it might be nothing, but to me it was something. In the Avowed, opening trailer and, credits and stuff for it from Obsidian, and they include all the titles and stuff they work on or are associated with.
Yeah.
They did have the Lone Ranger from Fallout New Vegas in that.
Oh
They
yeah.
didn't have Darth Nihilus from Sith Lords in there. They didn't have Cartman from South Park in there, but they did have him in there. So I'm like, huh, that kind of caught my attention a little bit. As in, we work on Fallout. Fallout is a franchise we do stuff with. To me, that's something to remember, add a footnote on. So I could totally see them doing a Fallout New Vegas too. Could like I said, the remasters of the first three Fallout games, the remaster of Fallout 3, the Fallout 5 finally being greenlit and started by main Bethesda. And like that's like a whole bunch, that's a handful of titles just right there. Like boom. Like you could easily, well, not easily, but you know what I mean, like get going pretty quickly. So it seems like a no-brainer, and the fact that like you mentioned it in the UK, but in the US when Fallout the show came out, like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76 were all within like the top 50, 30 ish in marketplace on the US Xbox store. Like they were, and these are games that are a decade plus old at that point, except for Fallout 76, which was more recent and ongoing. So it tells you there's clearly a desire for it, and they just got to get going. And it sounds like they finally figured it out, and they're doing it.
Yeah. I just saw in chat the the Expanse Osiris Reborn 2 releasing in 2034. Oh god. You know what, right? I know for a fact I'm gonna like that game. I already know I'm gonna like it. And I'm gonna hype train the living hell out of it on Twitter because that's what I do. That's
When
just
does that
depressing.
Exodus game come out? Like the
No,
one you always talk about. When does
yeah,
that one come out too?
yeah, the one made by former BioWare devs. That doesn't actually have a release date anymore. It was
Oh, that's not good.
yeah. I mean, apparently it is still coming. Hopefully, um, but I mean, I I think there's some of these developers they just don't put out a release window anymore. I think GTA scared a lot of developers. Like they didn't want to like set anything in stone. Hopefully that does come out soon. But at the minute, my current hype train game is the Expanse game. For people, by the way, for people that have never watched the Expanse, they're gonna go to that game. Oh my god, right? So cool, such a cool universe. Uh, little nerdy tidbit of knowledge I like about that universe is that if you picture a starship in your head, it has decks like the long way of a ship. However, in the Expanse universe, it uses propulsion and acceleration as artificial gravity. So starships are built like towers with floors. So when the ship accelerates forward, you push backwards. That's how those ships generate gravity. Yes, I'm a big old nerd, and I love that crap. And the thing is, I can't even say what the name of the drive is called in that universe because of reasons. I don't know if you remember, Logan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's not called a warp drive, but I can't say what it's called.
Yeah, don't say that one.
Yeah,
Don't.
I can't say this word on the channel.
Uh,
Let's just say it's named after a person. But yeah, Fallout. It looks like Microsoft is finally pivoting to get multiple games out in the universe in the same generation. And like you said, Logan, like we could see more spin-offs, remakes, and look, they still have the really older games they could come out with. Like, why not remaster Daggerfall or Morrowind? Right? You know, they could do anything. It's just we shouldn't be waiting years and years in between. You know, like hell, you can even say the same thing about Halo, right? I think Halo should have a new game every couple of years, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be a fancy new Halo numbered title. It could be, you know, a spin-off game. I still want a spin-off game where
I
you
want
play.
my flood game.
Yeah, remember that fake horror game that was floating around on Twitter about 10 years ago.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
Make it happen.
yeah, just a fake piece of art for Gravemind, the horror game. Such a cool idea. Why not make that a thing? Could be a 10-hour experience. I think, you know, hopefully we're getting to a point where these publishers, they realize maybe we should actually start, you know, trying to get our games sooner. And look, hell, I don't even need every game to be photorealistic because, like, look, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion looks amazing. It's not photorealistic, but like that suits that look. It looks really good. But yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
No, just looking forward to the THQ showcase that's coming
Oh
up
yeah,
real soon as well, and the Gamescom. Hopefully, you know, we get that Kingdoms of Amalur thing that we talked about last time. That would make me very, very happy.
yeah. So for people that don't know, Kingdoms of Amalur, the RPG came out in what 2011, 2012.
The same year as Skyrim, which was a bit rough for an RPG.
Yeah, the comparisons were there, people all over it, but the game was marred in controversy because the studio they took loans from was it Long Island,
Rhode
Rhode
Island.
Island, like they had loans from Rhode Island. They were going to pump money back into the community because they're going to hire from that area, all sorts. And then, you know, THQ Nordic, what it is now, picked up the IP. They remastered it. A lot of people liked it. For people that haven't played it yet, it's 4K 60, and it's basically Fable meets God of War combat. It is essentially a Fable game, and it's really cool. And, you know, Fate, was it Fate Keeper? Yeah, Fate Keeper was trademarked recently, and the THQ Nordic event is, let me check. The THQ Nordic event is next Friday. So there's a chance we see a Kingdoms of Amalur 2 announced there. And also, I do think that's where we're going to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin gameplay. It's been 3 years. It's time. It's really time. But yeah, other than that, it's been a good week. Everyone in chat has been amazing. Sorry for audio issues that may have occurred at the beginning of the show. OBS has been having its little issues. I'll probably just need to update the software. We'll be back for a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast next Tuesday, same time. Hopefully without the hiccups. YouTube's had some little issues recently. But if you've enjoyed the show, please hit like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. I do want to grow and have some really cool things planned for the future. I have a video that should be coming out in the next 3 days. People will really like this one. I have a lot of cool things for the months ahead, and like I said earlier on the show, I do plan on streaming the entire Mass Effect trilogy on the channel live in the coming months. I've got some really cool thumbnails for that. Should be really fun. Anyway, see you next week. Hope everyone has a good week. We're out. Peace, everyone.